Hi, everyone. How are you? This is Bethany Gonyea, founder of Numinous, the organization that sponsors the Resonant Peaceful Cities Project. And as many of you know, we do peace meditation research. So we invite communities to come together and meditate and send intentions for peace to an area. And then we collect the police data and determine how much of an impact our intentions for peace have made. And so if you're on our list and you hang with us, then you probably have this really strong interest between intention and science. And so because of that today, I'm absolutely thrilled to bring you a guest. His name is Joseph Gallenberger, and he is the author of Inner Vegas. He's also been a Monroe trainer at the Monroe Institute for 30 years, clinical psychologist. And I'm going to bring him on now, and just so thrilled to be chatting with him today. All right, here we go. Joe, so fun to have you here.
Hello, how are you?
Hi. So, Joe, I've been thinking a lot because, because I do this peace meditation research, I read a lot of the intentional work. And I really feel as though your book is an amazing gift to the whole, what's out there on intention. And I feel as though because you add kind of more of the states of consciousness to it, states of being, and then you back it up with all the science from the Paralab. I just want you to know, I feel as though your book is just so up there. And if anybody has any desire to know more about science and intention, I am directing people right to Joe's book lately. So, anyways, just thrilled to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, one thing that you tend to add to the mix is this idea of energy with intention. And so, and you talk about how energy healing and psychokinesis and manifestation, they're all related to energy. So can you talk about the connection between those three items?
Yeah, so I mention that because a lot of times people don't link those three together. And I came across it experientially. I was up at Monroe Institute and was directing energy um, toward dice rolling and was able to roll 7 sevens in a row, for example, or whatever I would like. And when I was doing that, um, phenomenologically, it it felt identical to how when I'm doing energy healing, I feel, meaning a wide open heart, grounded well to the earth, connected to spirit, warm hands, um, feeling oneness with what I'm operating with, those kind of things. And so when up there as well, if somebody say had a headache, if I felt intuitively inclined and they agreed, I might touch their shoulder and their headache goes away. And there's that same kind of energy transfer. The interesting thing to me, this was almost 30 years ago now, where there was not as much study being done in energy healing, is it seemed to me that the psychokinesis, being able to affect dice and slot machines, bend metal with your mind. We've grown seeds in our hand, 1.5 inch root growth in 2 minutes. Those kind of things are more studyable by science at that time. So that intrigued me because now we could get some verification that it was getting hard to do with energy healing. And as I began to work with that, I went out and started working in Vegas because it was a great place to get a black belt in PK or psychokinesis because we know the statistics of the games. And so after university work showing that this is real, I could do it, we went out there for practice, and it became very clear that those same energies really help with manifestation. So it is this idea, as I mentioned, being very much in the here, now, present moment, the power of now. Eckhart Tolle kind of talks about, or we might call grounding. And that's a challenge because it's a rough little planet to be on, and we have mixed feelings about being here sometimes. So
Mm.
we work a lot on grounding strongly and bringing those energies into your heart, and then the highest energies of spirit. And for both psychokinesis and energy healing, and then in manifestation, if we do that, that's when things get really productive. We then measurably we have results. So movies like The Secret, when they talk about visualizing what you'd like, they tend to leave out the shadow part. We may have limits in our thoughts, like nothing good can come easy, no pain, no gain. That would get in the way of instant healing, for example. And also this idea of building lots of energy. They look at it more intellectually. To me, our intention, you mentioned the word intention work, would be like the steering wheel of a car. It sets a direction in which we want to go, but the car goes nowhere without gas. And in a car, you use gas. The best energy for these things is unconditional love. It's positive psychologically and spiritually, and it's easy to do over a long period of time with good positive results in your life. Um, so that's my main area of working, is to get a person to feel really good about being here so they can be grounded, giving tools to get rid of the and modify the limits in belief system and emotion, like lack of deservingness, anger, fear, those things. And when we do that, we see lots of things move smoothly. So I hope that gives an idea how they're related together.
It,
Um,
it does. And, one thing I'd like everybody to know is that, Joe, you've been doing this work for years and you have kept meticulous records, right? So when you went to Vegas, you were documenting, and I just thought that was so great that you were playing in real time, documenting, plus you went to the Paralab. Um, and this happened over what, four, when you really kind of got your body of work from this, was it 4 or 5 years of going back and forth from Vegas? Um,
well,
I
for the
mean,
book
you had
Inner
worked
Vegas,
out
yes.
before, but
And that work has continued. We've done 99 workshops there. Had to stop with COVID. We'll probably start again this fall or spring. The research work is continued up at Monroe by the University of Virginia in a program called MC Squared, standing for Manifestation and Creation Squared. I think you took that program, so you know we have fun there bending metal and doing healing and all of that. Um, and so that work is continuing with the Department of Perceptual Studies at University of Virginia. But I think it's important to not just sort of pretend this is true or wish it was true, but get good information. And the overall studies now, what we call meta-analysis, Dean Radin is good at doing that out at IONS Institute of Noetic Science. His analysis would suggest that at this point, we would call psychokinesis, the ability to affect matter with our energy, intuition in the form of remote viewing, precognition, and telepathy. All of those are what we'd call Six Sigma events. They would not even occur once in a billion by chance.
uh,
So the
I didn't know. Is
statistics are
that
very
wow?
strong. Yeah.
Wow.
They would put a drug on the market if it's 100 to 1 by chance, that it would only be chance that it's helpful. So when you get over a billion to 1, it's quite solid. Um, and So we're building on that kind of body of work. Princeton Lab, you mentioned, Princeton Engineering Anomalous Research, PEAR, talks about the quantum physics explanations, but they actually closed saying they've proven all they can prove.
Yeah, right.
Um, and now other people have picked up their work on how do you apply it.
Right.
Um, and it can get pretty interesting. Your ideas of group consciousness affecting crime rates is right up that alley. We've had folks, even one individual, learning to be able to raise the nitrogen content in the soil of his family farms that are thousands of acres.
Wow.
And imagine the world with no need for nitrogen fertilizer.
Right.
Um, so
Right.
we have groups of people praying over lakes to clear them of pollution. There's many different applications, but of course, from my point of view, I'd agree with you that internal peace and world peace and community peace would be way on top of the list, way above winning the lottery, from my point of view.
Right,
Uh,
right. Yeah. And another dot that I felt was really important that you connected in your book was that story about you were there with your friend and somehow he something got piqued about a relationship you had with your mom. And then you cleared it energetically and then you got a response like relatively soon. And you kind of show that in your book quite a bit is here and there. And I think that's a really important thing for people to experience. There was another thing you also talked about is on your trips to Vegas, if you knew to get there and adjust your energy first, get more sleep, rest up a
mhm.
little bit, get your energy kind of coherent into the location environment before you went into to play, because you noticed that if you didn't do that, you didn't do well, right? Like these
Yeah,
real concrete, real basic everyday life. So I and those are all things I would guess, but after I read your book, I do like really take care of it, like clean up any energy around something and do my best. So can you talk about that's something powerful that we can do? And can you explain the process better than I did?
sure. I have a saying on my wall that I developed and then somebody sent to me on a wooden sign. And it basically says, fear is expensive, love is priceless, choose wisely. And I think that's very important now in our culture and ourselves individually. So, example, in your world peace movement idea, if people hearing about all the school shootings and all the gun deaths in the United States, or another political persuasion worrying about all the people coming across the border, or folks under economic fear or political fear, that tends to really cloud love. Love to me has no opposite. So hate is not the opposite, but love can be clouded, and fear can be defined quite broadly as anything clouding love. So that could show up as cynicism, hopelessness, um, anger. When somebody cuts you off in traffic, the first reaction you're aware of might be anger to want to yell at them. But before that, a nanosecond, there was a fear for your safety, and that generates the anger. So we're looking at fear a lot and finding that's very important. So intellectually, you can rationalize like, oh, I may not be the only, I'm in a small town, gun violence will never be here. But the rationalizations are kind of weak. What we find better is moving into the energy of the heart, often through uh, feelings of appreciation, generating happiness, there's a technology to generate happiness. It's put in a lot of the meditation work I've done. Um, Feeling abundant, uh, all of those tend to reduce fear as it allows our hearts to open, and that reduces ego further, and that reduces the fear more. So, even in a quick meditation, I might start with something I'm grateful for. All the cats are pets in my life, dogs, my friends, the beautiful places in nature I've gone, each day different, but that I arrive in a relaxed, focused state, also with my heart open and a feeling of gratitude. And from there, our model for healing energy, healing for sending pieces, to me, you are designed to be a being that receives energy, unlimited quantity and quality directly from source, whether you judge that as God or beauty of nature, however you define it. And if we, as high energy beings, fill ourselves with that high, beautiful energy, then with the outpouring, we can do healing. We could send peace. We could raise the temperature in a room. We could roll dice or get slot machine jackpots or heal things. They have films where tumors are shrinking with energy healers sending energy. So many different uses. But if you start from a place of lack of energy and you're trying to get energy from other people by being the good girl, the good boy, the bad boy, the rescuer, what have you, then energy is not of sufficient quality to really do this in a very impactful way. So um, as you know, in MC squared, we might have 2 dozen people. You sound like you have 2 to 400 people. And we look for a coherence of intention to send peace, but also for the person to embody peace before they even attempt to send it. So it's different than, oh God, I wish everything was different and people would get along.
Mm,
Why I'm in turmoil inside and my inner male and female are fighting because of cultural roles and all of that. We try to really get, we don't have to be gurus or Buddhas, 100% perfect. But if we can get fear down to 10% fear, 90% desire for peace, that's when we see miracles happen. Synchronicity, serendipity, those kind of things.
very cool. And I want to get back to that in a minute. Yeah, the reason I have to tell you, I had an experience there that really embodied what how I thought how this work, how your work type of work can would really facilitate peace. And it's this idea that what at MC squared, I always had this thought of if we all knew who we were in the etheric and we all knew what we were capable of, how the world would be more peaceful because people wouldn't feel as though they have to be clutching and clawing and pulling power and energy from others. They'd be generating it themselves. So I was at MC squared and it was the end of the week and it was just, the energy was so clean and so good. And I was thinking about it. And at the end of the week, they do a share out and I'm kind of feeling it, sensing it, and admiring the quality of the energy. And I realized this is true. Like the reason why, because during the week, for those of you who don't know, what happens is we're doing all these different experiments where we're kind of testing our intention with some feedback. And the neat thing is Joe builds in this group where we're all just supporting each other. Like there's no competition because everybody's just supporting everybody because if we're all these infinite creators, then there's no competition, right? You just kind of we're all becoming more, and so at the end of the week, I just had felt so supported and so loved and so, that even though you're kind of playing a game with each other, right? That who's going to get the highest score and rolling the dice, but the love that we had for each other and the clarity and the sweetness, and I just thought, my God, if everybody knew who they were, if everybody knew these skills, my God, this world would change in a heartbeat.
Yes. And so, mentioning to people, we use a technology assisted meditation. You're wearing headphones, and it allows people who've never meditated within 10 minutes to relax and 20 minutes to really expand their energy. So, on my website, for example, I have about 8 or 10 exercises that a person could do and within 20 minutes experience and feel this gratitude, elation of energy, abundance and peace. Liquid Luck is probably my most famous one of that. There's a book by that name and meditation as a CD or download. Um, and but other ones to open the heart called like the healing heart, etc. And the good thing is very quickly most people, even if you had a group of strangers, they can move into a place where they are feeling so empowered that they reduce their fear levels and they don't feel lack. Instead they feel abundance, and with that they become very loving toward each other. And yes, I think it's practical. We could do that as a country. There can be, deep-seated, long-range patterns in our training. So I have a home study course called Sync, SYNC, Creation, CREATION, with 3 coaching sessions with me, where we have a lot of meditations to go into things that let fear go, let limits go, and help people move into that state of being much more aware of who they are and less threatened. Because the culture puts out a lot of themes of lack.
Mm.
Religion says, you lack the ability to contact the divine directly. You need to go through us and tithe. And the government says, without us, you'd be running the street in chaos, where in fact, probably much of the danger that we experience comes from government in the form of war, etc. And school, oh, if you don't go to school, you won't amount to anything. So people are saying we have the way, and in fact, one can learn that much of the power is within you, and you don't have to rely on these external places as much, and that reduces the struggle a lot
Mm,
uh, that we might have with other people, because a lot of that comes from a feeling of scarcity. Um, we built a society on Darwin's survival of the fittest. That's what we were taught. Well, the latest information in biology with genetic sharing among organisms really indicates that nature's prime directive is for the good of all. Building a society on that is very different, and it allows the peace much easier than survival of the fittest does, because that's a eat or no eat. I'm either
right.
victim or abuser, I'm predator or prey. And when you feel that, it's very hard to get these areas of peace going, um, because people will protect their children and their families. They want what's best. And if they feel their role is to protect as a predator would against other predators, it's going to be a conflicted society. And so we're working, if you can give a person a taste of how good, how powerful, how activating of intuition, how good it is for your health, it is to be in peace, then
Right.
much, much changes. And
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm
yeah,
so glad you mentioned most of your programs there. So just to check out Joe's website, it's Sync Creation, and that's two C's. So that's SYNC, another C for creation. So synccreation.com. And your home study course where you probably help analyze people as far as where their blind spot is, right? And
yeah, it's a very pro coaching thing. There may be issues of deservingness, or there may be even practicalities of how would I fit in doing an hour meditation a day. But when people begin to work in these areas, things come so much more easily. Um, and so, if you hire a workman, it's the first call. They come when they said they would. They do a better job than you even expected, and everything goes smoothly. You end up with more time on your hands. In the liquid luck, I do that meditation in my mind before going to town because I hate going there. I travel so much in my business, and I can hit the bank and the DMV and three other places and be back in an hour because every parking space is open, the lines are short or non-existent, and the person's friendly and serves my needs well. So, and I might pick up a lotto scratch ticket on the way and get home and have won $100. So it's a nice way to live. Uh, and it makes peace a lot easier.
Right, 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 right. I know there's a line in Course in Miracles that says, if grace isn't happening, something's wrong, right? That maybe we're
Yes.
not. I kind of see this work as we're calibrating ourselves to the infinite, right? So how can we stay in
Yeah.
calibration? How can we right? And then to trust those light feelings, right? Because intuitively, people tend to guard, muscle brace against life, right? And it's
Mhm.
counterintuitive to kind of break open and surrender more, right?
Yeah.
And love
But
is real, right? Like you
I'll tell you, being
demonstrated, love is.
intuitive is much more protective than being paranoid.
What'd you say? I'm
Uh,
sorry, I missed that.
it's that I'll tell you from my decades of experience, being open to your intuition, being intuitive, is much more protective than being
Uh,
paranoid. And rejecting others before they reject you, and trying to protect yourself through legal contracts. Instead, when your radar is really clear and clean, um, you meet angels coming along the way that really help, and you become an angel to a lot of other people. Um,
so you have
so I
you have
just,
Dr. Joe. You
yeah,
also talk about your the liquid luck. You have the Good Fortune Handbook, which is a really nice handbook for everyone if you're interested
mhm.
in a nice short way to put it together. Very straightforward. I loved it. Loaded with great information. And then, can you talk a little bit about it's funny because people can see your book and they assume that it's some sort of law of attraction book with, like about getting a Porsche or whatever. And so can you talk about your Vegas things and what it really talks about with love and people and supporting each other and fun and how you just kind of like turn over what we think works in the real world, and then but at Vegas you demonstrate through.
Yeah. Yeah, we mainly use Vegas because it's quick feedback. You go to a dice table, we get the table reserved just for us. So we're the only people there except for the crew. And if we go into that wide open heart, one with all, and fun is often a good part of it, a lot of laughter. We put an arch around the person, one person either side, looking soul to soul, eye to eye, and forming a beautiful arch of energy. And when we do that, the feedback is usually within seconds by a win that our energy is flowing well. And if we go into greed, fear, and ego, then the money is withdrawn. And
Mm,
so much like training the dog to sit by reward, you can reward yourself into a more enlightened way of living by practicing over a weekend and seeing how quickly in that environment the feedback shows you this stuff works. In real life, if we were looking for a soulmate, it might be a year before that everything was in order for that to come to us and we could get discouraged. Or we could think negatively for weeks before we got a cold or some thing in the biological system indicating the negativity. In Vegas, the feedback is usually within seconds. In the home study course, we do use dice rolling, but we also do bending metal or growing seeds in your hand, as I mentioned, lighting light bulb with our energy. There's been a measure of 400 volts of electricity off our hands when we're doing energy healing or lighting light bulbs. So those feedback devices really help a person get to be confident. So it attracts a lot of massage therapists, energy healers, but also day traders, people that
yeah.
need their intuition to be activated, real estate folks, entrepreneurs, um, and we've had some pretty cool things happen in terms of people's lives outside from money. When people think of manifesting, a lot of times it's money. I look at what would you want your kids to have or your grandkids? Probably you'd want inner peace, happiness, ability to tell a joke, being able to dance gracefully, um, being able to have resilience and bounce back, to be able to forgive yourself and others. And those are manifestation things. You
Mm.
can manifest things like that, maybe even easier than a Porsche sometimes, um, because your whole spirit would like you to have those.
Mm,
Wrong with a Porsche,
right.
but usually for most people, after two or three nice cars, they get boring,
Yeah.
and then they go on to do bigger things and with more impact positively. And so that's where we're focused mainly.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so important. It's such an important part of this. And you do tell that story in your book about your car, right? I thought of you the other day when I was going out to my car, and I thought, well, Joe kept that car going for how long? You was your
Yeah,
Volvo or something? Was it-
yeah. It was a persnickety electronic transmission in a BMW,
Oh,
and
BMW.
so I would pray over it for uh, every once in a while, and it would be good for another 50,000 miles. Was a 1985 car, and when I sold it, it had a couple 100,000 miles on it. Um, I told the guy about that, and the last I checked, it was still on the road now.
Wow.
Um, and when I talked to him, he had not repaired the transmission. He said that prayer stuff works. So we have people, they affect computers and electronics quite easily. Um, and so that can be, some of the things we do in the scientific lab. We work a lot with random number generators or things like that. And it can be a lot of fun
Yeah.
um,
It's it's
to see that feedback so quickly.
it's part of the work, right? Is the lightness of heart. Did you so when do you so Dr. Joe has taken 99 trips to Vegas with people, correct? And you may
Yes.
be doing your 100th. So
Yes.
how would people know about that? Because that would be super fun.
If you go to the synccreation.com website, on the top left, there's a free newsletter to sign up. That's where we will announce. There's also what other people have experienced. And there's lots of, under previous articles, free articles there suggesting a meditation and how to do energy healing, how to manifest in life, how to do psychokinesis, different things like we're talking about today. So there's a lot of free material on the website as well.
Good to know.
Um, and if sync creation is too hard to remember, if you just say liquid luck, into Google, my name will pop up and you can find me through
Yeah.
that. Uh,
Well, Dr. Joe, thank you so much for your time today. And if you were to say, I mean, it almost seems as though the way you're living is kind of the truth of who we are. Is that right? Like maybe meaning that this whole way of life, this way of, is kind of who what we're all capable, right? It's not special to anybody. But
yeah, yeah, it's never been about deservingness or talent. People can bend metal or whatever it might be under this to greater and lesser skill at the beginning, much like playing the piano. One person might pick it up a little more easily. But to me, it's our birthright
yes, that's
to
yes.
be connected to source and to be able to have strong intuition that helped us survive in the jungle. We would just know not to go that way, go this way. So intuition is part of our survival system. And PK, this ability to affect matter, is natural, but it doesn't mean it's easy if ego gets in the way. So, sleep is natural. How do you sleep? Gee, I'm tired. I think I'll go to bed. Then you forget about it and you fall asleep, maybe thinking of something else. But if I said, okay, go on TV, 10 million people watching you and fall asleep in the next hour and I'll give you $1 million, most people could because now you're self-conscious. Now you're efforting. Now you're an ego. Same for this healing, same for manifesting, same for PK. You need to be letting the natural flow of our birthright flow. If you get your ego in there um, too strongly, then it becomes struggle. And then you go, see, this doesn't work. But
Mm,
it's just that the approach is not as elegant as it could be. And
interesting.
sometimes it's hard, it's tempting when you have a doctor saying, oh, Monday we're going to biopsy under your arm and it may be cancer, to be relaxed and not be in fear. But the people who are able to do that, they may go in and say, what are you here for? We don't find anything. The same for if you've been jobless 3 months, and your family's counting on you to find that new job. The meditation tools that Monroe Institute has, that I have on my website, help people when it's tempting to just stay in fear, help people when they're too busy or too stressed, be able to create enough window in all of that that good things can happen.
Oh, that's so good to know, and it's so good for us all to know that
Yeah.
tweaking our energy a little bit, spirit is closer than we often acknowledge. There are resources probably just waiting to burst through if we do our own inner work, right? A lot of this is about our own
Yeah.
inner work, clean, 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 right?
Yeah. And again, don't have to be perfect. But to me, it's almost a balance. If you are 80% fear of what you don't want and 20% desire of what you do want, it's probably going to be you get what you don't want. As you get to 50-50, it's very frustrating. 60-40, things begin to happen in the direction you want, but with a lot of effort and work. At 80-20, that's when synchronicity, serendipity, miracles start coming in. When you're 80% clear, clean intention and only 20% or so fear. And and there's miracle out there, and there's blessing, and there's times when the universe just is very kind to you, even if you're not doing so hot in your energy or your
There's,
thought. Somebody may smile at you across the room. At least smile back. They may be somebody you want to know.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so we're always getting opportunities, I think.
And the universe is always playing with us if we're willing to play, if we're willing to
Yeah,
be aware of the game that we're playing. Um,
yeah.
So, well, again, thank you so much for your time. Please, I encourage you to go get Dr. Joe's book, his website, Sync Creation, and his course that also includes what, 3 coaching sessions and a dozen custom meditations. So you create the
Yeah.
meditations for them.
Yep. So those are
That's
only available in that course. And I do the coachings personally right now because I'm not traveling near as much since I'm not traveling internationally or Vegas right now because of the hassles involved
yeah,
with
right.
that.
Let's clean that up.
Um,
So,
yes. So,
our,
um, we'd love to hear and be of help in some way. And I really want to indicate my appreciation of what you're doing. I think it is really cool that we can measure the effects of intention on crime rates and things. That's going to get people, you're going to get attention from politicians and other things by that.
Yeah. Well, it's I love is these people having those their hearts open so big, and then they have those spontaneous magical moments that love is real, love is palpable.
Hmm.
It's regenerative. It's it's not just a Hallmark card, right? It's power.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
yeah, and that's why I loved your book because it helped me just really solidify a lot of those concepts. And then you had the really practical, real life descriptions of how you manage some situations, and I learned a lot from that. So thank you so much.
Okay. My pleasure.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Joe. I would love to be on your 100th trip. Maybe I'll manifest it. And
Yeah,
and thank you so much for your time today and all of your work. His book is a gift. I'm telling you. Please, I would consider go looking at it. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Joe.
you're welcome. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye.